The UN Human Rights Commissioner's country update on Sri Lanka was delivered at the 37th Human Rights Council session late last night. Delivering the update, UN Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights Kate Gilmore stated that Sri Lankan authorities have yet to demonstrate their willingness or the capacity to address impunity for gross violations of international human rights.
I'm pleased to advise that we welcome the government's constructive engagement with the Office of the High Commissioner and Human Rights Mechanism. It was with much regret that we must also report slow progress in establishing transitional justice mechanisms. In the absence of concrete results or publicly available drafts of legislation, it seems highly doubtful that the transitional justice agenda committed to by the government under this Council's Resolution 30/1 will be fully implemented before our next report in March 2019. Furthermore, the authorities have yet to demonstrate the willingness or the capacity to address impunity for gross violations of international human rights and international humanitarian law. This strengthens the arguments in favour of the establishment of a specialised court to deal with serious crimes, supported by international practitioners. And in the absence of such a mechanism, we do call on Member States to exercise universal jurisdiction. We are also seriously concerned about multiple incidents of intercommunal violence, attack and hate speech against minorities observed throughout last year, a worry further exacerbated by recent developments that have occurred since the drafting of this report, including violence against Muslims in Kandy district that led to a proclamation of a state of emergency for 12 days.
The UK representative, speaking on behalf of a number of countries, including the United States, expressed confidence in the current administration's ability to deliver the reforms expected by the UNHRC.
We welcome the overall improvement in human rights and democratic reforms which the High Commissioner's update notes. Sri Lanka is safer and freer than in 2015. The government's constructive engagement with special procedures and support for the peace-building priority plan is welcome. The Consultation Task Force issued an important report to reflect the views of Sri Lankans, and recent legislation on enforced disappearance is positive. While welcoming these steps, we are disappointed that the pace of progress has been slow. Much remains to be done to implement Sri Lanka's commitments. We remain concerned about reports of abuse of authority by some security officials, and multiple incidents of intercommunal violence, attacks and hate speech against minorities are alarming and demonstrate the need for reconciliation efforts. With determined leadership and a clear timeline for action, this government can deliver the reform and justice agenda and take the actions needed to support long-term reconciliation with the support of all Sri Lankans.
Addressing the session, Minister of Foreign Affairs Tilak Marapana, who is leading the Sri Lankan delegation in Geneva, expressed his confidence in the capability of the Sri Lankan judiciary to fulfill the obligations made by the country to the UNHRC.
We are pained by the recent incidents in a few areas of Sri Lanka targeting members of the Muslim community who represent an integral part of the pluralistic society of Sri Lanka. Such acts which go against our shared vision of a Sri Lankan where equal rights and rule of law are guaranteed for all have no place in a democratic pluralistic society. The government has taken swift action against perpetrators of these incidents and is investigating any lapses that may have taken place on that occasion. Stringent measures will be initiated to ensure non-recurrence. A victim compensation program has already commenced, and we have reason to believe that certain interested parties were behind this to tarnish our image at a time when this council is in session. Sri Lanka's judiciary and the law enforcement mechanisms are fully capable and committed to advancing justice to all concerned. It has a long history of integrity and professionalism, and since January of 2015, steps have been taken to further strengthen its independence. And may I add that all reconciliation mechanisms can and will be implemented in accordance with our Constitution. The legacy of conflict in Sri Lanka is heavy, and it permeates our society to this day. Extremists constantly strive to take advantage of this situation to achieve political gain. This realization only makes us even more determined to ensure that we never return to the violent days of the past. It is our intention to ensure the fulfillment of our commitments to all our people and bring closure to a sad and disturbing period of our recent